Today I want to show you some more tricks about Metasynth, specifically about the image synth room, which is, I think, by far the most interesting room with the most interesting concepts. And there are a few things that we can do with this that might not be very obvious. The first thing has to do with some samples. So I've loaded up a drum loop right here, but you can load up any drum loop you like or any other loop you like by going to open and then just choose something you like or something that you've made yourself, this one for example, and then match the BPM. So this one is at 110, so I'm gonna change it here to 110, and then I can play this in the sample editor. Now if I want to take the rhythm of this drum loop, what I can do is I can go to the grid layer inside the image synth, and the grid layer is a layer that's just there for reference. It paints in blue colors. I can say here draw a default grid, and you can see these light blue colors, and Metasynth doesn't read blue, so it's not gonna read any of this. It's just so that you can see where you are on the canvas. So it's handy to make scales. It's also great to make melodies and drum rhythms. So now I've deleted the old grid channel, and I'm gonna analyze this drum loop to here, and now we can see the transients of the drum beat. So this is already pretty useful, especially if you have a little bit of a louder and a clearer beat. You can easily copy the transients, and then you can just paint your own sounds on there and sort of get that same rhythm. So that's one cool thing, but we could also analyze this drum beat just to the regular layer, and we can do that like this, and now we actually got the sound on the transients that the drum beats have. And we can double this, so speed it up, make it twice faster. We can import that again. First I'm going to delete the grid layer, then go to the normal layer again, and import it here. But the cool thing about this is that first off, we can now quantize this, so we can select it all and say quantize to minor natural. Then we can transpose it a bit. We can make it faster. And we can even choose another tuning right here to totally shift the whole content of the sound into a smaller scale. And maybe blur this a little bit. And so this has some very interesting uses if we're starting to use this. And first I'm gonna open a slightly more interesting drum loop. I think I'm gonna choose this one. And let's set the tempo to 120. Okay, I think that should work. And now we're going to import that. So press N to analyze it into my spectrum. And first I'm going to reset this to my semitone tuning again. Try that again. It looks a little bit better. Now this is probably going to be very loud and quite chaotic. But that's cool, and we can fix that in several ways. The first thing we can do with this is that we can go to the grid layer again, and we can draw a default grid. And now we got our familiar lines, but all the same tools applies on the grid layer as well. So we can double these lines by pressing the twice faster button. like this, and it keeps getting faster and faster. And now we have got quite a lot of grid lines, and this is very useful because now if we go back to the normal layer and we select all, and then we can go to the right side where the effects are, and we can say grid filter, and now it's gonna only keep everything that's on a line, on a grid line, and everything between that it's gonna delete. So you're gonna get a very cool rhythm this way. We can normalize this again, so make it a little bit louder. I think it's already at its loudest. We can try to transpose this octave up. And we can use all the other effects like the blurring, the quantizing. We can scale it again to different scales. And if we now go back to the grid layer, we can even make the grid a little bit faster again, and then go back, we import it again, and we use the grid filter again. So this is some cool stuff with the grid layer. Just with that you can do a whole bunch of stuff. But what we can also do is change the instrument, and this is going to be very interesting, especially when you're working with drum loops and stuff like that that are not really tonal. We can go over here and we can say build multi-sampler, and then we'll just go into a folder and select one kick, and then we say open, and depending on the name of the sample, if it has logical sample names that are not totally chaotic, it will do a pretty decent guess at figuring out where the sample should go. So now it automatically mapped 2 or 3 pages of samples for us. We've got some snares, we got some rides, we got some toms, some kicks. We actually got quite a lot in there. So we click OK, and now if we hold Control Option on a Mac, we get this different cursor, and now we can preview the sounds. So there are a whole bunch of sounds in there. So let's import our drum loop. Let's see what it sounds like. That's already pretty cool. Then we're going to go into the sampler and we're going to choose an effect. So let's choose a reverb. Okay, and let's try to set this to a scale. And maybe transpose it. So remember, if you're using a sampler, if you're transposing it, it doesn't necessarily mean that the sound is going to be higher. It's just going to choose some different samples. And we can try the grid filter as well. And now we can go to a new layer. So we say new layer, and now we have your whole fresh palette here to work again. So this time let's try to add some custom sounds. So we're gonna look for some interesting parts. So I like that one. Let's choose this one, which is the attack brush, and we can hold shift and then make pretty straight lines. Okay, that's already pretty cool. Then we're gonna go for a new layer and then see what's at the top here. Not that much. Let's try to shift this whole canvas down. And let's draw something there. We go for the same brush again. And this time we can choose one of these modes, which is repeating mode. And it will repeat the node, and it has to do with the grid size on the lower left here. So now if I click, we can drag and we'll repeat it like that. And if I set this to, for example, 8, we'll repeat it twice as fast. So let's set this to 32. That's perfect. And let's transpose those nodes. And the cool thing about this is that we can work in different layers, so we can completely erase a layer without affecting the other layers. But now we can also just change the sampler instrument, which for me often gives pretty cool, interesting results. So let's go for, well, we could choose maybe a factory sample instrument. And let's say open and go to our Metasynth folder. And then I think we should choose instruments, multi-samples, and then let's choose this one, orchestral. And let's already choose a little bit of reverb. So and let's quantize this to a minor natural. And remember, you can also make your custom scales and use them on the left side here. And go to all the layers. I think I'm gonna delete the first layer for this. I'm gonna use the normal brush again. So let's say we like this. Now we can send this to our sample editor. And once we have it in the sample editor right here, we can use all the other rooms to process it further. We can use the image filter like I showed last time. We can use the effects, or we can just save it to the montage room and start building our complete sound here. So those are my little quick tips for the image synth. There's a lot more still to discover about that and to learn for me as well. But I hope you found this useful, and see you another time. Thanks.